Welcome back. Well, we need to talk a little bit about social media because that's part of what Cityline Reel is all about. What are the effects of social media on us? Neil Pesricha is here, author of The Happiness Equation.
Thank you. Thank you.
To talk about a few things that maybe we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
You know, when you get on your phone, there's sort of like this addiction almost because
Right.
it's fun, it's games, it's you know, seeking approval, it's seeing who liked your picture.
Yeah.
Let's talk about everything that is happening when you're going through that process.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm usually here talking about happiness. These things cause unhappiness, to be honest with you, Tracy, and they all start with the letter P.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, the first one is psychological. We think that likes equal happiness, like you said. But you know what? We compare our director's cut life, you know, the eating McDonald's at home or, you know, having a bowl of Kraft dinner with ketchup chips sprinkled on top. And we look at Instagram and if someone's at a tasting menu in the Dominican Republic, that's their greatest hits. Their greatest hits, our director's cuts. You see why we have psychological inferiority complexes, because we're comparing ourselves to everyone's best of.
Right.
So that's a huge issue. That's the first P, psychological.
Okay.
The second P is physical. Our actual bodies. You ever bump into a texting zombie at the grocery store?
Yes.
These people are going so slow and they kind of just, you know, elbow you and they don't know what they're doing. You know what they're doing? They're doing adding 30 to 60 pounds of weight on their spine by looking down all the time. You actually add 30 to 60 pounds of pressure on your spine. Never mind the fact that people are getting texter's thumb, which is really embarrassing to go to your doctor about, by the way. You know, I got texter's thumb. And so we're adding these physical problems to our bodies because we're not naturally supposed to be looking like this all day.
Yeah.
And the third one is about our primal brain. Okay, so we talked about psychological, we talked about physical. Third one's about our primal brain. See, our brains have equated for millennium the idea that bright lights equal daytime.
Right.
You know, you stare at the sun, it's daytime, and nighttime is dark. What happens when we bring into bed our cell phones, our iPads, our laptop screens? They are movies, they are books, they are alarm clocks now. We trick our brain. And the problem with tricking our brain is it doesn't like jokes. And so it doesn't produce melatonin overnight. It doesn't produce melatonin, the sleep hormone.
Yeah.
A recent study by Professor Gamble out of Australia shows that actually increases anxiety and depression amongst adolescents and people in their 20-somethings because they're not getting sleep. They're not getting sleep. We're looking at bright screens. It's not the sun, though. It's, you know, it's Instagram.
That's right.
And the problem is you aren't resting well and you're more anxious the next day. So those three things, the psychological, the physical, and the primal, are the three things causing unhappiness based on our social media addiction.
So we know that adolescents are more likely to be using social media, and they're the ones that are more vulnerable to, you know, feeling depression and unhappiness and anxiety.
Brain's still developing.
Brain is still developing. From a psychological perspective then, what are we to do to try and distance ourselves from comparing? Comparison is like the you know, it steals all of the good.
Yeah.
So how do we stop doing that?
I mean, it is, it's a practice. It's like yoga. It's something you get better at. I'm not saying go live in a tent and throw your phone in the garbage. That's too drastic.
Yeah.
But there are little baby steps we can all do every day.
Yeah.
Number one, where do you plug your phone in your house? I highly recommend you plug it really far from where you sleep. In the basement, leave it in your car if you're in a parking garage, whatever. Leave it somewhere where it's work to go check it before bed and when you wake up. And if it's work, you won't do it as much. You won't do it as much. That's the first thing we need to do, is to plug it in somewhere far.
What about people who say I need it as my alarm clock?
Buy an alarm clock. Buy an alarm clock. Go, you know, go.
I hear that one a lot.
I need
it. I need two alarm clocks.
It's $8. You know, buy an alarm clock.
Buy two alarm clocks.
Exactly, and then you won't be anxious about worrying about it, right? So yeah, that's a big one. So the big one is separating ourselves from our technology, physically separating it.
You have to make it hard because it is a habit, and you're going to want to go back to it again and again. The physical and the primal. Same thing.
Well, another big one is no screens 1 hour before bedtime. Okay, that's the bright screen effect, and so that's the thing about what you said about alarm clocks. But it's also like, even just watching a movie or looking at a YouTube video, something like that, we shouldn't be doing right before bed. We should be having a cup of hot milk with honey and reading a book. And it could be any book, not just the Happiness Equation. You pick any book you want. It calms you down. It puts you in a relaxed state of mind. I read fiction before a book because, you know, you go somewhere else, you relax, you fall into a cozy slumber, right?
So we're really good at putting those rules out for our kids, but we're not so good at putting those rules out for ourselves, because we also need that break with light and the stimulation in order to have a restful sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
The biggest thing I'd recommend your viewers to do is live in airplane mode. It's very hard to do, but when you live in airplane mode all day, then you turn your entire device from a push system, which pushes alerts, notifications, text messages to you all day, to a pull system. I turn off airplane mode, you know, every few hours, but then I'm getting a flood of text messages and emails, and I'm choosing to respond to them. Then I go back into airplane mode. So thinking about your device not as something that owns you, but that you own, and reversing the power dynamic that you have with your cell phone.
Ooh, take back control over the cell phone.
Take control. They're controlling us.
That is, wow, that's very good advice. I like that, very practical.